Hello and welcome to the Stedman SQL Podcast, episode 6. Today we have George and Mitch with us, and we are going to cover some of the new features and releases, things they've been working on for Database Health Monitor. So, like I said, this is episode 6. I'm Shannon. I am Steve Stedman's assistant. And some places you can kind of watch the podcast episode. We link it live every week to YouTube at Steve Stedman. And then we are still in the process of finding the best kind of podcast landing streaming place we want to put it. I didn't have any exciting new Stedman news this week, but yeah, let's jump into it. So, like I said, we have George and Mitch with us today. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. What has been, you mentioned there was a new quick scan check. Can you tell me a little bit about what that covers?
Yeah, so we both came up with a new quick scan check. Basically, it just checks if you've made a SQL Server agent job to run, but when you were making it, you might have forgotten to schedule it. So we'll go back there and it checks to make sure that it is scheduled. And then if it's not, it will notify you in the quick scan report.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's, a lot of, we got that one, we got the idea for it because we've had a few clients where we work with them and, we see that certain jobs aren't being run when we do our other reports, and then we noticed, we thought we scheduled them, and then some environments can cause them to either get disabled, like I think RDS or Azure can have some extra jobs and some stuff that runs in the background that can sometimes disable stuff, but it's not really clear when stuff gets disabled. So just having an extra reminder that says, hey, these cleanup jobs aren't running, can be really helpful for keeping stuff nice and clean and tidy.
Mm-hmm. All right. You said there was one other thing that you had worked on. What exactly did that entail?
So we have two pretty big additions to this latest release, 1074. So we added a new instance report, which is performance history. And then we also added a new database level report, which is file size over time, where you can monitor file growth, backup growths, all that file stuff. And then if we want to pull up the stream, we can start showing that off.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we'll start with performance history. This is just a instance report. So we'll jump straight into that. And this has a lot of good charts that are added now. So this is all historic monitoring. So you will need to have your historic monitoring enabled on your database to be able to access this instance report. But each of these charts shows a ton of helpful information over time where you can change the time frame and the granularity to look at it. But all these charts have tons of helpful information for looking at performance monitoring. And then do we want to kind of dive into each one of these or what they all do?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Alrighty. And then George, feel free to jump in at any point if you want to add to an explanation. So top one, batch requests. This is just how SQL batches up queries and sends them all off to do all of them at once. You should be looking for a pretty average batch request. Anything like this, where you're getting a bunch of batch requests, it's abnormalities in this chart. So I had a bunch of queries running at the same time. So I had a bunch going off here. Cache hit ratio, that's going to be where it's pulling out of memory. So you want to make sure that you're pulling most of it out of the cache and not relying on other resources. Again, this is just another one that you should be monitoring and making sure that it's pretty average across all the time. Memory grants pending. This is when two or more things are trying to take up too much memory resources. And if you have any of these, this might indicate poor resource allocation. authentication. So definitely keep an eye on this one. Deadlocks. If you have deadlocks, it definitely needs investigating at that point. So this is one that just, if you see something, investigate it on there. Page lookups, reads, and writes are all pretty explanatory. Just depends on your server workload, how much you're putting in, how much you're pulling out of it. So these should all be pretty average. If you're putting in more, your reads and writes might be a little higher at certain points. Compilations and recompilations. So SQL Server compiles all its requests. This is another one where just checking for averages is pretty good. You want to make sure that it's not getting too out of hand. But if your compilations look fine, but your recompilations start shooting up, that's when you need to start investigating more for that kind of stuff. And then finally, we have target server memory and total server memory. This is, again, another resource allocation chart. These should both be pretty average in a production database, or they should both equal out to each other. If your total server memory is getting any large spikes like I had here, you need to look into your resource allocation and make sure that it's all configured properly. And then transactions is just how many transactions are going through a second. And so one other thing that we added here, this is kind of just a cool feature that we're going to start implementing everywhere else, but you have the ability to collapse charts that you might not want to monitor all the time. And this will stay like that between sessions. So you can collapse charts, move them up and down, depending on what you want to monitor more frequently or what you want to see at the top when you open it. So anytime you collapse or move a chart, it will stay in that spot once you leave. And then George added the file size over time report.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the one Mitch, that instance report, but it's a per database file report, so you can see how each database is growing over time. At the top, you can see there's also the time frame and granularity sliders. So you can look at like last week, you can look at last month, you can look all time, year, and just kind of see how you're growing, and maybe like you can use that to help predict where your databases might grow in the future and like what kind of storage demands you might have just by looking at the curve. We're currently, I guess, talking about we use the same bar chart we did in the other ones. We're currently also working on a line chart version of it. Oh, Mitch has it.
Pull that one up real quick.
And to kind of help, it helps visualize the data a little bit better than the bar charts do.
Yeah, so this is just one of the sneak peeks that we're doing. You'll probably see this on the next release.
Yeah, and we might add some more customization and use that chart elsewhere in database health as it makes sense. But we also might have a slider or radio button to help to choose between them depending on, because different people see like different charts better. You can have a lot of say on how you see your data.
Yep. Let's see here. So one of the other features that we added in this last release, one of the big overhauls we did in our previous release was dark mode. So our focus for this last one was actually colorblind mode, which should make a lot of the charts a little bit more friendly to individuals that do suffer from any type of color blindness. So we went through, did a little research on the best way to implement this, and this is currently what we've landed on. Anybody that has any recommendations or any slight color tweaks that can be made, we're definitely open to listening to those in the future.
Yeah, and feel free to email me, Shannon at stedmansolutions.com, and I will happily pass along the info.
Yeah, so just anything that makes our program a little bit more accessible to anybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then one last little feature that we threw in there. So we've had the blocking and active queries charts, the real-time charts added to the server overviews, but we have now also added each of those to the real-time overview by databases. So if you're trying to find some more information about each database that you're looking at, you can definitely look at the real-time blocking and active queries for each of those databases.
And you had mentioned that there was a couple new things that you had started looking into working on.
Yeah, so that first one, the line charts, we're looking at getting those rolled out for the next release a little bit more, getting them more implemented in more areas that make sense, like George said. And then another page that we're adding is the VLFs page, which shows you virtual log files. It provides a visualization of the virtual log files that are used in the log files between backups, and then the ability to shrink and expand those files as needed.
We look forward to hearing how those advance and seeing the progress that comes with that.
Yeah, so this is just a work in progress right now, but we should be seeing this rolled out by the time we do our next release.
That was short and sweet, but a lot of information covered. Good work, gentlemen.
Yep.
Yeah, we had two big pages to roll out, so that was our big focus for this last release.
And even
lots of good.
Yeah, even if they were quick to go over, it took a bit to get them put up there.
Right, and they both have a lot of good information to look through. A lot of use cases for both of those pages.
Yeah, and both those pages we've already used with some of our clients to show differences of our own performance tuning, like before and after, especially the performance ones for the page writes and reads. We were able to see and visualize the huge difference that we did with one of our clients. And then some of the other, like the file size over time, I've been using that one to look at some databases for another client to see kind of how they're growing and what they might need to do in the future. Usually
at this point, we do, kind of a Q&A, and I haven't seen anything come over, but I will. Usually there's a little bit of a delay between the comment section and when we receive it. But like I said earlier, some places we can watch. Usually we do the live stream and it'll go to YouTube at Steve Stedman. And then another place you can watch is on our Stedman Solutions webpage, stedmansolutions.com. There is a tab that you can click, scroll down, it says Stedman SQL Podcast. And each week I go through and update that page and put in current episode at the top, links to the other episodes. And we keep that regularly updated. It'll also go to Steve's YouTube channel after I go through and edit and, take out all the ums and such. And that'll be probably a couple days, but it's always available there later. Yeah, I haven't seen any comments come through, but next week we will be covering. We have a guest appearance from our first partner appearance from our partner program. Brandy from Rock IT will be joining us. So look forward to that email coming through, and that should be an exciting episode to have her join us. So thank you again for appearing with us. We appreciate hearing the updates and having you guys come join us and let us know what you've been working on.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, have a good week, everybody, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching our video. I'm Steve, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Please click the thumbs up if you liked it, and if you want more information, more videos like this, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you can get notified of future videos that we create.